Hello, 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 everyone. How is everyone doing today? I see Zach and Dakota and Lily are on, and Bo and all them. Ava just logged in. Hello, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well. I want to wish everyone a happy Memorial Day weekend. It's the last week of school, right? Since y'all technically been out for a minute. I want to wish the happy birthdays out there. If you've had a birthday within the last few weeks, happy birthday to the seniors graduating. Happy graduation. I'm sorry it ended the way it did, but everything's going to get better. We're going to improve. It's the appearance, and that's what we're going to talk about today. The appearance is what's going to is what's going to change our thoughts. So today we're starting a new series. We're starting a new series called The Fix. All right. In this lesson, we're going to talk about the appearance and the character of a person. So we're going to be in 1 Samuel 16, 1 through 14. 1 Samuel 16, 1 through 14. And this is actually a common, a common lesson. Everybody knows the story. But we're going to dive in a little bit deeper. We're going to get to know the background of it, right? And we're going to look at what is God actually telling us. So somebody go ahead and call Jude. Tell Jude to wake up. And if anybody's saying on, there's only like 6 people. Y'all are sleeping late because y'all stayed up swimming late last night. So, all right. So today we're going to talk about the appearance, right? And the first thing that pops to mind when I think of the appearance of an item or the appearance of something is an iceberg. So when you think of an iceberg, right, an iceberg is these big, massive ice cubes floating around the ocean. All right, some are massive and beautiful, and they have you can look up icebergs on Google, and there's going to be some great pictures of icebergs. But what's crazy about it is we only see 1/8 of the iceberg above the water. 7/8 of the iceberg, and that's what's the dangerous part. 7/8 of the icebergs is we cannot see. We have no idea what's below the surface, and you can put an ice cube in a drink of water, and it's not going to be as pretty, but you can kind of see what it looks like, right? 7/8 of the iceberg sits below the surface of the water. And essentially, I'm comparing ourselves as the iceberg. We as people are just like the iceberg. Hey, Zach, I'm going to need you to pay attention, little buddy, okay? You don't need to be telling everybody hi. All right? So, 7/8, like us as people, a lot of times when we look at somebody, we look at their physical appearance and their stature or the accomplishments that they've made, right? But it's not that. That's not who we are. All right? We are defined by our character, and you will be remembered for the person that you are, but not what you do. All right? For example, I could throw a name out there like Tim Tebow. Who is Tim Tebow? And y'all are going to say, oh, he's a Christian that didn't make it in the NFL, right? Yeah, that's true, right? He's a Christian. You remember him from who he is. All right? But tell me what year he won the SEC championship. Tell me the year he played for the Denver Broncos and won that playoff game that he threw for 316 yards. Right? But tell me what verse he wrote on his eye black. Right here, under his eyes for the SEC championship game, for the national championship game. Right? And I guarantee you, a lot of y'all know what Tim Tebow did. That's one of the things, right? Yeah, he wasn't remembered. He wasn't looked at for sports, but he is a person that you know of that is spreading God's word. And I can go back and I can give you ideas, right? Who won the national championship in 1999? No idea. Most of y'all probably weren't even alive in 1999. Who won the national championship in 2010? No idea. I don't even know, right? I could barely tell you the last 3 years who won the national championship. I know Alabama didn't win last year, and I was very upset about it. But I'm past that. So, but that's what I'm saying, right? We look at the outer appearance when we're thinking, but we don't look at the inside of our hearts. And that's what we're going to look at today, right? So we're going to be in 1 Samuel 16. 1 Samuel 16, we're going to read the first 14 verses. So I'm going to read them on. I'm going to get back to my points, right? So 1 Samuel 16, the title of this is Samuel Anoints David. And then the Lord said to Samuel, how long are you going to mourn for Saul? since I have rejected him as king over Israel. Fill your horn with oil and go. I am sending you to Jesse of Bethlehem because I have selected a king from his sons. Samuel asked, how can I go? Saul will hear about it and kill me. The Lord answered, take a young cow with you and say, I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. Then invite Jesse to the sacrifice, and I will let you know what you are to do. You are to anoint for me the one I indicate to you. And Samuel did what the Lord directed, and he went to Bethlehem. When the elders of the town met him, they trembled. And they asked, do you come in peace? In peace, he replied. I have come to sacrifice for the Lord. Concentrate yourselves and come with me to the sacrifice. And then he consecrated Jesse and his sons and invited him to the sacrifice. And when they arrived, Samuel saw Eliab and said, certainly the Lord anointed one is here before me. So once again, right here we're looking at even Samuel, one of God's trusted prophets, right? Even Samuel was looking at the outer appearance. But the Lord said to Samuel, do not look at his appearance or his stature, because I have rejected him. Humans do not see what the Lord sees, for humans see what is visible, but the Lord sees the heart. Jesse called Nebat and presented it to Samuel. The Lord hasn't chosen this one either. Samuel said, and then Jesse presented Shammah, and Samuel said, the Lord hasn't chosen this one either. After Jesse presented 7 of his sons, Samuel told Jesse, the Lord hasn't chosen any of these. Samuel asked, are these all your sons? They're still the youngest, he answered, but right now he's tending to the sheep. And Samuel told Jesse, send for him. We won't sit down and eat until he gets here. So Jesse sent for him, and he had beautiful eyes and a healthy, handsome appearance. And even right here, they're even looking at the appearance of David. Then the Lord said, anoint him, for he is the one. So Samuel took the horn of the oil and anointed him in the presence of his brothers. And the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully on David from that day forward. Then Samuel set out and went to Ramah. Now the Spirit of the Lord left Saul, and an evil spirit sent from the Lord began to torment him. So we have this contrast in characters, right? And it can be Saul versus David. It can be David versus his brothers, right? But we have this contrast of characters that we see. And Saul was the king, he was the chosen one, and then he had messed up and he did not do what God wanted him to do. Then you turn around and you have David, who was just a shepherd. No one even thought of this little kid, this little scrawny little man, doing anything important. He was the 8th son of Jesse. Right. And then you have his older brothers. That was the strongest one. And they were handsome, and they were the first. They got the majority of the birthrights. And even as a church, we look at these external marks as a church. All right. We look at how many people we have coming each day or each Sunday. All right. I remember growing up, we had a little number wall that we had. It talked about daily Bible readers, daily Bible readers, Sunday school attendance, Wednesday night attendance. And it was all about numbers. And we look at, as a church, that's our external marks. How many people are getting saved? How many people are doing their Bible reading? How many people are there? And that's not what's important in the grand scheme of things. Don't get me wrong. If you are not saved, I encourage you to take that step with Christ. I encourage you to take that next step. And that's very important because, we're going from hell to heaven. We're from a life of torture and suffering to eternal glory. But here on earth, we don't need to look at the appearance. We don't need to look at the outer appearance of what's going on out of the church or out as a person. We need to do our best to look at the heart of a person. And however, usually the type of inner strength that is needed to walk with God in a way that desires comes through a consistent life filled with faithfulness to God over a long period of time. This walk doesn't come easy. You're going to be tempted. Look at Job. Job got tempted, right? Look at Jonah. Jonah ran from God, got swallowed by a whale. This walk isn't easy. Even David wasn't the perfect person, but he was a man after God's own heart. And God looked at the heart of David and was able to tell who he was as a person. So this story isn't about Samuel. This story isn't about Saul. This story isn't about Jesse and his sons. This story ain't even about David. This story, even though it's a history lesson, we're seeing who was the next king and who got appointed and why he was appointed. This is a story about God. And God looks at our hearts. God doesn't look at the accomplishments that you've made. God doesn't look at the trophies that you have in the wall or the academic success, right? God looks at your heart. In 1 Corinthians 1:28, this is great, right? God has chosen what is insignificant and despised in the world. God has chosen what is insignificant and despised in the world, and what is viewed as nothing. And God brings to nothing what is viewed as something. God chose Jesse's 8th son. This son was a unlettered rural shepherd. Someone who wasn't going to get a major portion of the birthright. Someone who has been appointed from the Lord. And it's crazy that God judges people based on a completely different standard than we are humans evaluate ourselves. People look at strength. We look at power. We look at charm. We look at influence. And we look at wealth. And God cares nothing about that. God looks at the heart of a person. And though David was not the leader by human standards, God knew what his heart, God knew what David would accomplish and selected him to be the anointed king. And he became the Lord's appointed. He became a brave man, a warrior who uses his supernatural enhanced ability, right? He wasn't no superhero. He wasn't Superman. But here in verse 13, it says, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully on David from that day forward. And he was able to defeat these evil spirits. Right? You know, I tried to think of what's the biggest and most important thing going on in the world, right? Like if I had to define character, what was the most important character in our life today? And in the military, we had 7, right? It was loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. And, you know, out of those seven that I've been trained and I've worked through, I honestly believe now when it comes to doing God's work, the issue that you're going to run into the most is integrity. It's way too easy to cheat on a test. It's way too easy to cheat in sports. It's way too easy to lust after something or someone. It's way too easy to have those idols in front of us. Uh-oh, Instagram just went off. I don't know what happened. Sorry, guys. I'm back on Instagram. But it's way too easy to have these idols in front of us and just to kind of it's to have that lust and that sin in our lives. I was listening to a sermon this weekend. I was listening to a sermon this weekend, and a pastor friend, he told a story. We're gonna call this guy Martin, right? He didn't actually, tell the Martin, but we're gonna call this guy Martin. All right, and Martin worked for this big company, and he worked for this huge, massive company, and he embezzled a lot of money. And embezzle means he practically stole a bunch of money, right? And during this time, he came to find, know God, and he was saved. And, God really laid it on his heart that he had done something wrong and he had to do what he had to do to fix it. Um, so he went to the company and he told the truth. And the company was mad and the company was angry. The company was, they pressed charges. And he paid all the money back. Everything that he had taken from and embezzled from this company, he gave that money back. And the company still pressed charges. And he spent 7 years in prison. 7 years. If you went and you told the truth and you spent 7 years in prison, how would you feel about God? Would you be mad at God? I mean, honestly, I couldn't tell you that I wouldn't. At least questioning it at some point. God, why are you doing this to me? God, why? I don't have. I like to think that I have the faith of Job, right? And Job went through all these things, but it was like, if you spent 7 years in prison for doing what's right and having the integrity to tell the truth, how would you feel about God? And the pastor, that pastor, he asked this Martin, how do you feel about God? He says, I've never been closer. He took that step of faith and he walked with Christ, and Christ has never left his side. Integrity is going to be the most important. You're going to tell no. There's going to be times of trouble. There's going to be seasons of pain, right? And I totally get that. I go through seasons of pains as well. Everyone in this church has gone through a season of pain. But, and I say but, God's with you. And God knows your heart. So as people are looking at your outer appearance and they're either praising you or downing you based on the person you are, the accomplishments that you made, don't let that change your heart. All right. And we must avoid this conflating spiritual growth with other forms, right? And I say we must avoid this, what we see as a person, the spiritual growth that we have, right? We don't need to let the outside world come in that and kind of change that. Because these other forms of growth that we see in society, and for the most of us, for the youth right now, that I can tell y'all probably looking at is, academic achievement, sports accomplishments, relationships. For the adults that are watching right now, it could be stuff that your children or grandkids have done. It could be work status, how high up on you on the chain or on the ladder, right? All of these are looked at things that we see as people as being successful. And a lot of times where we run into our troubles here at a church and as a person is we let those outside accomplishments come in and tell us how we're doing as a spiritual growth, in our spiritual growth. If I threw out there, how many people have been saved since I've been here for the last 13, 14 months? How many people, because of me, because of the work that I've done, have been saved? I don't know. But I don't judge that. What I judge is how I see y'all's life change in this process. And if we're not careful, we will carry that mindset into our spiritual lives. And we begin to see the same measurement, not understanding the same measurement as these accomplishments, and not understanding that the Lord does not care but what a man does. But he looks at the heart and what that person loves. So that's all I have. As y'all are going through Memorial Day, and Memorial Day is about the people that we've lost and about the people that are no longer here with us. Don't think about the accomplishments that they've done, but think about the person that they were. And as y'all are think about today, and that's your homework, right? That's your homework until Wednesday night. Think about the person of who you are. Who are you inside? Don't look at accomplishments. Don't look at basketball scores. Don't look at this. Don't look at that. Who are you as a person? And know that God loves that person no matter what. So let us pray. Let us get out here. I hope everybody has fun. Zach, go fishing. Pierce, happy birthday. Seniors, happy graduation. And Preston, congratulations on your enlistment, man. I'm happy for you. So let us pray and let us move forward. Lord, I want to thank you for all the many blessings that you pour upon us. Lord, I thank you for giving us ways and opportunities to come and worship. And I pray that as the community and as the United States are starting to open back up, that you give us opportunities to come together as a body and worship your name. Lord, you're awesome. You're mighty. I pray for all the unspoken prayer requests here, Lord. I pray for all these students that have shown up. I pray that they continue to be a hedge of protection around them. Keep them safe this weekend through the summer as things are going back to what we will see as normal. And I pray for all of the families that have lost someone and that they're thinking about this Memorial Day weekend. Just be with them and just lift their spirits up. Lord, you're awesome. We love you. We thank you. In your heavenly name I pray. Amen. I love y'all. I will see y'all on Wednesday night. Have a good day. Oh, and boom. And boom. And boom.